Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 41 of Stronghold SHX, the road to $3.33 with myself, CryptoBanker SHX. It is the weekend, it's a Saturday, it's August the 30th. Before we dive in, just an important prerequisite: I am not a financial advisor, and nothing I ever say or do should be taken as financial advice. I do not endorse SHX at any price point. And so looking at the daily on SHX, we've seen a drop of 1.78%. We've seen some interesting wicks going up on BitTrue to just over 3 cents in the last few hours, which is what these are here. But if you look at BitTrue, they went to, just above 3 cents. So that's interesting. But we have a drop of 53.93% in regards to volume, currently sat at just above $1 million. Now, what I wanted to cover in today's episode, hear from Vibra Finance. Please do give him a follow if you don't already. He's an SHX OG, original strongholder. Now, he's making the reference here about Stronghold Pay being live within New York cannabis dispensaries with no announcements, no marketing. And he's asking, is this how they roll out everything in silence? And it's interesting because obviously New York is a highly restricted place when it comes to compliance and regulations, right? You have to be meeting some very high standards there. I think the highest within the US. And the important point I think that people miss when they look at Stronghold and they're looking at SHX is that most crypto projects are purely based on crypto. They are just trying to solve usually one main problem. For example, cross-border payments, right? Whereas Stronghold have formed in a time in which the technology had come on to the point in which it was better and more aligned to be implemented within financial systems. So a lot of the new AI stuff that came out in 2014, 15, and a lot of this new tech, it wasn't mature enough. Um, it didn't have the capabilities. The idea was there and it was amazing, and some of the functionality was there, but on a lot of these things it just wasn't. If it was implemented, it was then creating more problems than it was solving, right? So they were formed back in 2017, which gave them an advantage over many of these earlier crypto projects. But like I say, the main point is that Stronghold is a verified, fully operational business processing multi-billions in dollars a day through its systems, right? Already, without the implementation of crypto. Now, what they've done is they've built the entire business model around the capabilities of StrongholdNet and the utility of SHX. And they've done this in such a clever way because it's pre-regulations. So instead of waiting for regulations and then saying, hey, we've got this, would you like to use it? Would you like to try it? They've actually built the business in a sustainable way. They've gone after niche markets which really traditionally have trouble with traditional banking facilities. So the likes of the cannabis industry, which is obviously legalized in certain states within the US, about to be nationally legalized, I believe. Then what that means is that they have trouble with the banks in regards to processing payments. The banks still don't really want to touch it. There's a lot of old school people still on the boards of these banks as well. They just don't want to touch it. They also don't want to touch things like alcohol, things like gambling, anything that has an age restriction around it, because it creates the headache. And they also don't like to be associated with it. Now, what Stronghold did was they went after these niche sectors and were able, because they are processing the payments, were able to offer them things like decentralized finance, cash advances, because they knew that although these businesses were new, some of them they also needed to build up their payment history, and they could do that very quickly in a matter of months to then allow them to have a proven history in terms of payments, to then be able to secure this decentralized cash advances to enable them to grow their businesses, right? And then the loan repayments come out directly from the payments that they're taking from their customers in terms of profits. So very quickly, a payments business can see the volume that a business is creating, a merchant's creating. And from that, they can see, well, okay, right, they've processed this much over the last 6 months. Therefore, we expect that to continue at this rate. And they can pretty much figure out using that data if that person or business is eligible and would be good for a cash advance if that's something that they require to help grow their business. So they announced Stronghold a couple of years ago, their partnership and the utility of the cannabis industry when it comes to Stronghold and payments. And this was with Blaze. So they're offering frictionless payments for online and in-store sales. And I think that this is really just one example that you're going to see of the utility of Stronghold and SHX. It's already happened. It's been happening for a number of years. These people are already participants of Stronghold Net, these merchants, these businesses, governments, banks. And so really it's just a case of switching it on, right? It's already switched on in relation to this, but the actual utility that we're interested in is SHX and how that plays a role. And really, as I say, it's like having say, for example, you weren't interested in crypto and never had any exposure to it, but you have a very successful business. It's kind of like your bank just saying, well, you now have all these different payment options. You can do ACH, you can do settle in XRP, you can settle in XLM, and you can take payments within those currencies as well. And it's all seamless. And that's kind of like the flip of the switch moment when Stronghold have the confidence and the green light in regards to laws and compliance and regulatory matters to allow StrongholdNet to function for the purpose in which it was designed, and therefore spark the utility of SHX with it being the native currency of that network and the liquidity tool and the utility currency with all the different use cases. That's the moment that we're going to. That's going to happen, and it's going to happen within the next 12 months. And how fast that happens, well, it's already kind of scaled, really. You already have the millions of merchants. You already have all of these users. They have 100% success rate in regards to StrongholdNet participants signing up for SHX rewards and the use and future use of crypto. But really, Stronghold's whole mantra and really their outlook as a business when it comes to crypto was to be that Trojan horse, and not necessarily people understand they're using or utilizing crypto. That's how good it could be, in the sense of they don't really notice too much of a change. And that's what you want in terms of a transition from an old traditional system to a new. You want it to be seamless. You want that user experience to almost be unnoticeable that there has been a change and that there are these different things. But I think that the benefits are going to be very, very clear to the participants of StrongholdNet in relation to crypto and blockchain and all of the other things that are happening in the wider market and the global stage when it comes to blockchain adoption. Well, Stronghold have already done all of the work. They already have all of the clients, and it is really just a case of an update within that interface to then allow the use and adoption of blockchain and the benefits of those use cases. So it's I think it's something that just gets overlooked when people look at SHX. There isn't a crypto project out there that is a fully fledged business like StrongholdNet, really at the cutting edge and really backed by all the major players and rubbing shoulders with all the major players. And the only thing that's missing for SHX is the price. And that's it. Everything else is already done. Everything else is already signed, sealed. It just needs to be delivered. And all of this short-term noise or short-term price, like, it's not. This is at the very infancy of a technology being adopted. And that's where we're at. So, like I say, it's really the beginning of something which is revolutionary, but at the same time, a lot of the groundwork and a lot of the foundations and everything really has already been built. That payments, those payment rails and networks have already been built and interconnected. It's just a case of switching them on. That's it for episode 41. I will be back on Monday for episode 42. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a fantastic weekend and continue to do so. And I will see you on episode 42.